So did my daughter know that she was going to die? Well, the short answer is no, because she was just 4 years old. And the only concept of death that she ever had was sometimes my cat would bring in a mouse that was deceased. And I would always just stay neutral and calm. And we would look at this mouse who was not moving. And I would explain to her that, well, even though the mouse is now deceased and is not moving, it is up there in heaven playing with all the other mice. And it can play with other animals, and it is up there living in heaven with God, enjoying life to the fullest. So all is well. And my daughter would just happily accept my explanation. She never wondered about the logistics of why the mouse is not moving here on earth, but somehow simultaneously playing up there in heaven. She was always just very happy for that mouse, that it was still continuing to play. So the hospice doctor told me a story about a 7-year-old boy, and that boy was about to pass away, and together with his parents, they made a drawing. And in the drawing, they made like a map. And this boy told his parents that, hey, I will be waiting at this tree when it is your time to come to heaven as well. And this is where we will all meet. And that is how that family processed the passing of that boy that was about to come. And when I heard that story, that the doctor told me, I just knew that I cannot do this with my child. She is way too young. And knowing her so well, I knew that it would only confuse her and scare her instead of just comforting her. So I decided that I would not tell my daughter that she was going to die. And yeah, as you can imagine, it was incredibly hard. And when we got the diagnosis, it would only be 7 weeks and she would then be gone. We didn't know exactly when she would pass, but this beautiful little girl was the sickest heart patient they had ever seen in the history of that hospital. So as you can imagine, everything was just a great, great shock to the system. So I had to suddenly prepare in a very short period of time how to be a hospice nurse for her, because I would be the one doing all the care at home and giving her all these very heavy medications and oxygen around the clock. So it would be day and night. And I tried my best to keep everything as normal as I could, even though I had to call people and tell them that she is about to pass, and the nightmare that we were in, and all this horrible medicine, and trying to manage my own pain and shock, but also being there for my child. And I still did everything I could to give her a sense of peace and comfort. So what I would do, because I felt that I still had to speak with her about heaven, and she already knew God in a sense, I would sometimes playfully talk about heaven with her. For example, when it came up about the mice that passed away, right? So sometimes playfully we would talk about it, but now it was much more intentional, because now my own kid is going to die. So in the evenings, we would go to bed, we would sleep together in my bed. And I had this projector with the stars and the moon and the skies, and it would slowly move and change colors. And then sometimes I would just say, do you know that heaven is up there where you see the stars and the moon and the skies? And we would talk about that. And I would also tell her about Jesus, and that he's also there, and that he loves children, and he always plays with children up there in heaven. So I would playfully, casually sometimes bring it up when we were looking at the ceiling. And then my daughter would sometimes ask me a question. And one of the questions that she asked, for example, was, is there a mother in heaven that will cook us food? And I said, but of course there's a mother there cooking food. Of course, there's a mother who takes care of everybody and of all the children and everybody that is there. Okay, well, she was happy to hear about that. And I would also explain to her that, hey, sometimes elderly people go there, like grandpas and grandmas, and sometimes mothers or fathers, brothers and sisters. And I said, but also children and animals, and sometimes, very young children sometimes also go there. I said, everybody eventually goes there, goes to heaven. And yeah. So at some point, she would also ask me, she would ask me the question that, can I pick my own room? And can I decorate the room how I want it to be? And I said, of course, you can make it as fun and as beautiful as you want it to be. And then she started to tell me that how she would decorate that room. But I forgot that answer. I forgot what she told me, how she wanted her room to be, because in these conversations, I was just literally dying on the inside that I was having these talks with my kid. So I was slowly guiding my daughter into her death without her knowing it. And to this day, it's such a huge thing to get my mind around, because I never got to say goodbye. I never had an intentional goodbye with my own daughter because she didn't know that she was going to die. So then what can I say? So then came the moment that she would pass away. And it was just like any other night, and we would go to bed, and I already had a feeling. I already knew. So we would just lay there together, cuddle. She needed me very near, so we would always hold on to each other. And then in the middle of the night, she would wake up screaming, and then she would have her very last moment of her very last heart failure attack, and it would be her last. And she collapsed, and she was actively dying for 30 minutes in my arms. So I had to witness that all by myself in the middle of the night. And saying goodbye to her and trying to stay calm. But I saw everything happening, how her body was slowly going. So before that happened, we exchanged a few words because I was about to give her the medicine. I thought maybe I could still help her, but it was all too late. So without saying goodbye, she was just dying, and that was it. And I had to deal with that, and I still have to deal with that moment for the rest of my life, because that's the moment that my life would change forever. Nothing will be normal again. But what I know from a soul's perspective is that passing away is way more easy than being born. With being born, you have to imagine that there is so much energy. Your soul has so much energy that has to be crammed into this very, very tiny little body. And people that have pre-birth memories still remember to this day, it somehow stayed with them how that felt. And it was really uncomfortable and not nice. But the passing away part is very different. It's for all the people that had a near-death experience, and I had one as well. It was not a spectacular one, but it was one. And in that moment, you are just suddenly in the other place. It's like as if you're taking off this glove of your hand. You just slip out and you are there. It's almost unnoticeable. So when I saw that my daughter was passing away, I also saw the exact moment that her soul had fully left her body. Because in the moment of dying, your soul is already usually somewhat out of the body, because it is not necessary for the soul's growth or evolution to be fully aware of the dying process. The dying is not the painful part, right? It's usually the disease that causes pain or symptoms, but dying is so natural. It's the most natural thing. So your body knows how to shut down automatically, and that is painless. Slowly, the soul is also letting go of all the chakras, which are your energy points. And then at some moment, it is all fully detached and it can let go. And that's the moment when people say, as I saw myself, that the light is out. The light has left their eyes. And I saw that moment also very clearly in my child. And it is crazy to witness, and the most traumatic thing you can go through in life. And as I said, the extra layer of pain was that I was not able to say goodbye because she was not aware. And it's very strange that somebody is not aware of how final these last moments of their life are. It is crazy to me. But that's the only comfort I do have. She was safe. She was with me. It's our happiest place was being together at home. And that I also know of own experience and what I've read and seen and heard and studied, how it has been for other people. And I also know, and that is because of my contact with the angelic realm, as you can maybe find in my other videos, that nobody ever passes alone. Nobody. And it kind of depends a little bit if your guardian angel is there or if it's a loved one that is there to help you cross to the other side. And it will maybe be a little bit different, whatever works individually, because everything is very individually focused, also when they're going to pass away. So, yeah, I have seen my daughter later on with loved ones, with other children, very happily playing there, still learning, still growing. So in that sense, all is well. But I'm just also a human and a mother that is grieving her child for 21 months now. And I know there are more people like us and grieving their loved ones and having to say goodbye. But I just also want you to know that passing away is not painful. Passing away is very natural. And there is always somebody waiting there on the other side, if it's a guardian angel or a loved one, whichever feels best for the soul of your loved one that is passing. And they are pretty much living their best life up there and still learning and growing whatever lessons they had to. So anyways, this was what I wanted to talk about. And grief is a long process. So I wish you all the best and take care and God bless.